303 Radio.
Live from Tokyo.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sounds from the Lab. Today we have the pleasure to receive Proppy, or Johan, and is going to bestow upon us the pleasure of listening to 8-beat cheap music, which is a type of music where you use basic chips, and Johan is actually also a chip maker, but he's going to tell us more after we listen to his performance. So, Johan, please. Okay, thank you so much, Johan. So, now we're gonna try to understand what just happened and what the fuck was that. And I'm interested in like both the technical aspect, like if you could just walk us through like what is like your device, how you're using it, and maybe then we can also talk about the artistic aspect. So first, like purely technically, what are you controlling? Like, what is the process?
So, the idea came from like something that went out, I think, in 2010 or something, called Bytebeat. So it was like someone called Visnut who released like a video who was about like kind of making interesting sound with just algorithm. Like the main idea was behind Bytebeat was that like you take some C code that you write, and which is kind of just like emitting sample every frame, and you just pipe that to the audio device and just listen to it. And so depending on kind of like the mathematical function that you put in there, like it will make a different sound. And so like it started going viral, and people started like kind of publishing those formula, and each formula was kind of a distinct sound.
Okay, so basically, if I get that right, is because you're shoving random numbers or a way to put numbers in a series, and those numbers, because they're quantified, right?
Yeah,
because
all those numbers are between 0 and 255, and so at the end it makes an 8-bit sample.
Okay, yeah. So it's basically, it ends up always being a square wave.
No,
right?
Actually, like it's because it's all depending on some counter that increment. It actually give you a sawtooth if you just put the counter. So you just have a number that goes between 0 and 255.
So it's quantified, but you can still go fast enough to do like continuous things.
Yeah, so like for example, if you just put T, which is the counter, it just does a sawtooth.
Okay.
Because it's just like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 225, 0. They divide to 0.
Okay, and so what are the controls that you have? Like
People started like doing those formula, and so I don't know, if they multiply T by 2, it make it do quite as fast, so then the pitch is higher. Okay. If they divide it by 2, the pitch is lower. And they started like adding like multiplication, division, and it ended up making like whole song with that. Okay. With this T increment and make like an interesting song. Okay, and so like the idea was to take like one of those songs and put it into like a chip.
So what's today's formula?
So it's called like the Sierpinski triangle, and it's by kind of an artist, a Bytebeat artist called Miro. Yeah. And like that was one of the first kind of full-blown song that was out there. And like the interesting thing is that like in this formula, like Miro kind of choose like some fixed parameter that he liked for that function. And the idea into turning it into hardware was that instead of having just that sound, like we could tweak those parameters. So we keep the formula, we keep the base structure of the song, but we can tweak the parameter to explore kind of like the soundscape around that formula. And so it's kind of what like the 10 minutes I've just done was just tweaking like those 4 parameters that make like the mirror track.
Yeah, can you like walk us through the parameters, like what
sure.
each parameter does,
Yeah.
kind of?
So that's you basically have the equivalent of 2 different like oscillators. So like
So you really only have like 4 parameters
it's just
to
4
make
parameters.
the
Yeah,
whole.
all the sound vectors. What's interesting is that like the actual original song when you publish it into a song like that. Not exactly the parameter, but it was something like that. And so you only get to listen to the bi-diction, right? You only get kind of running function. But like you can, if you kind of put it into a chip, you can turn that song into
Okay, so like a given chip could produce like a lot of different sounds, but at one point it's being flashed. Like it's being programmed to only do this one specific algorithm.
It's been manufactured and like you have like the actual chips inside the chip that's it's like you had the processor that only know how to do that.
Oh, so like this instrument is built to only play one song.
Yeah, so that chip can only play one song.
Okay.
And like so it's
That's
like,
like-
it's like the opposite of the software thing. Like, because you can change the software thing anytime you can is that like you turn that into hardware where the function is fixed, the parameter can change.
Okay. So I'm wondering like if you could change the, because this is just a control voltage, right? But what happens if you send like a function inside each of these
so like
parameters?
I mean like if I had
So
I have like
I'm gonna do a short live. Okay, so I mean, it's clearly for something that like is so complex, intuitively usable. I don't know how to explain. Like as a musician, like when you go on a new instrument, you usually have a lot of parameters, right? And I'm interested in a more like kind of almost philosophical question as to how much do you feel constraint is what makes this form of music beautiful?
I'm not sure I'm after beautiful, but what I feel interesting and beautiful is like the process. Like more like, and so like kind of an instrument in general like takes a lot of time to master. Yeah. And like usually it takes a lot of practice to make a song. Yeah. And here it's kind of, what if you turn a song into an instrument and you make it like really, really easy to change the parameter. And then like suddenly like the song is not like a song that you are trying to reproduce anymore. Like the song become kind of a soundscape that you can kind of explore. Yeah. And so what I found is interesting is that like if I do it, I kind of play it in a lame way because I know how it works. But when you play it, like you don't know the formula behind it. You only know the parameter, and you're just kind of exploring like, oh, does that make the song like this? Does that make it like this? And you are slowly building a mental model of like how the parameter map to the sound space, and you kind of try to go into the place that you prefer as an artist.
Yeah, and then also like the interesting part is that I don't really care about the formula, as like I think sometimes like knowledge can be limiting. When it comes to music making, at least, I know that we see that a lot when we create instruments or create like models or stuff for musicians to use. We tend to have a very rigid way of using it because we know, for instance, this parameter is time, so I can't do it backwards because it makes no sense to. But I, like as a musician, I wouldn't care. Like it's just a parameter, right? So I would like actually to push it the opposite direction. Like, what can I play the melody backwards, for instance?
Yeah, like I think like currently like the way the thing works is that like kind of the algorithm always play the time in the same thing. But you're right that if the parameter were bipolar, like you could actually, because there is some multiplication in there, and so you can actually revert the phase of the thing and kind of play the motif backward. But it would have to kind of, you would have to have the right kind of mapping between where the parameters are in the formula. Because like if they are after multiplication, it will play it backward. If they are after and or it will be something different. But like what I think interesting too is that like usually the people like you, like artists, like they play it better than me. Like, because like it's like maybe I've spoiled the thing. Like I should have maybe not tell you like this is this slow, this like approximately map to the pitch.
Actually I didn't really listen.
Okay.
Don't worry, I'm not a very good listener. So like for reals, the interest of having such a limited, and yet like you have to figure out how to make it sound in some way. Which for me is, it goes at the, I'm wondering, what do you think about this kind of divide, I would say almost, like divide in the sense that I can see in the artistic field now, in the music, like parties or art or whatever, like there is this big current about live coding and, 8-bit, chiptune, like all this, like let's go back to very simple thing, very strongly limited. And on the opposite side, you have hyperpop and this kind of thing, botanica, all these kind of genre that are actually into hyper-realism because tools allow either to do infinite amount of stuff or let's extremely constrain ourselves. And I'm wondering if you think it's a divide, or is there a way to reappropriate this idea of constraint into other types of music?
Yeah, I think like people, I mean, I'm mapping that to like another domain, like video game, for example. Like now with video game, you have like infinite like creativity. Like you can make a really complex 3D game, but like sometimes like people will feel very more productive or more creative if you limit them. If they do something on a Game Boy or a 2D game, or even like some people did a 1D game. And I feel like what you realize in game, for example, is that like what matter is not really like what matter is the alignment and the coherence of the gameplay with like the graphics. And I think in a song and in music in general, I don't see them as a divide. I see them maybe as just one different parameter that you choose to integrate. Like so, like what matter in the song is like what people feel when they hear it, and they might feel things when they are like super limited, and they might think things where like the artist is not limited. Like the question is like, does the artist is capable of kind of harnessing this lack of limitation or this limitation to actually make like the audience feel something? And usually it's kind of an echo between the artist feeling something for himself. And so I think like we all have a different cursor into where we start feeling things and how much complexity we need to harness to enjoy that feeling.
Yeah.
And so I think like I don't see that as a kind of divide. I see that just with like different artists having different sensibility with regard to complexity.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I've been wondering recently because of, there is all this like automatic AI generation, like generative AI music and all these things that produce music like instantly that fits some kind of standards of beauty. And for me, there is an interesting kind of resurgence of this faulty music, as in like kind of a, that's something AI won't do because it's not like clean enough. And so basically it's...
There is not enough training data.
Yeah, exactly. So faulty music, stuff that sounds weird and all.
If you will get to something like, like the organic or the bio movement, like where you will start like shopping for music that's like made by human.
Yeah, exactly.
Imperfection,
like,
just like people go to Whole Foods in the States to feel better.
I mean, I really believe like, there was the same thing with vinyl, for instance. People started praising, and it's still praised today, like there is this warmth of vinyl, and like it's something you can easily fake digitally, and it's imperceptible, but there is still this attraction for imperfections as being part of beauty. There is like...
Yeah, I think it's also with vinyl, and maybe it applies to music too, and to food too. Like it's part of the process too. Like I think like the little ritual that you have when you have an intent of choosing an actual like record, like pulling at the platin, taking the time like to put like the needle on it. Like it's like I think people that are into that, they are into that because they enjoy the process too of kind of deciding, instead of scrolling, kind of deciding I want to focus on this thing now. And so I think it's the same thing with like AI or like things that are done with computer or that are done with a DAW versus done with a modular. What matters is like what's your intent. And like if you use AI with an intent that's complex enough and creative enough, you can make like really things.
Yeah.
If you use AI to just like regurgitate the training data, you're making something that has been already done. Like if you enjoy it, that's cool, and that might be like a form of parody or a form of memes. But like it's like what counts is like at the end, like what the intention of the artist and how that mapped to the audience.
And speaking of that, like you were supposed to come with a specifically made chip.
Yeah,
right?
Like that chink, like that just burned on me.
And so it burnt this morning. So can you explain us the difference?
Yeah, so like basically, like inside the little module, like Chilica, there is an FPGA, and that FPGA is capable of running digital logic. And so the chip is really something that takes like 4-bit parameter. So it has like 16 pin as an input, and it regurgitates like 8-bit sample. So it has 8-bit as an input, 8 pin as an input. And so Chilica is a platform that allows you kind of to design digital logic. So you would add some AND gates or OR gates. And so you start with an high-level description, it lower to like this logic construction, and you can run it as if it was like real hardware.
Okay.
And the idea is that like once you validate that on FPGA, you take the same design and you kind of send it to a fab and say, no, I will map this logic function to the device that you can do, and I want you to put an OR gate here, I want you to put an AND gate here, I want them to be wired that way. And like 6 months after, like they come back to you and they give you this chip. And usually like a chip like this tends, I mean, if you make a full wafer of it, like it will take, I don't know, $150,000 to make like 20 wafer or 40 wafer.
Whoa.
And
Okay.
so like you can't really afford that as
Yeah,
an
yeah.
individual. So what the fab does is that like they will pull multiple design
Mhm.
on a wafer, and they manage to get maybe the price to $10,000.
Right.
But even that is like not something I could. I mean,
Yeah.
like I could offer myself as an hobbyist. So what happened is that like some people actually put together to put like multiple design inside a single chip.
Mm.
And so there is this service online, this community online called Tiny Tapout. And the
Mhm.
idea is that like once they've got like more than 100 people
Yeah.
like ready to submit a design,
Mhm.
they kind of put all the design together into a single chip,
Okay.
and then they fabricate it. And so they take like the $8,000 or $10,000 and they divide it like by 200, for example. And then it's
Okay.
like only like $50 to $100 for making your chip.
Okay.
And once you get the chip, you get everybody's design.
Ah,
So like
okay.
inside that thing, like there is 100 other design, and mine is like kind of on the top, a little bit on the right, and that's kind of my design.
But can you access other people's
Yeah,
design
and so
there?
like in order to access it, like they have like a dev board
Uh-huh.
that allow you to kind of set up the project. And so when you set up the project, like
Mm.
well, it will allocate all the IO pin only to that part of the silicon that you selected.
Okay.
And so like for actually selecting it when you don't have the dev board and you only have the chip,
Uh-huh.
you have to basically, because you didn't want to lose like too many IO to select like the project, you have to send repeatedly like 5 volts in
Okay.
strobe to a single pin.
Okay.
And because my project number is like 192, I would have to send like 192 pulse on the chip to be able for it to kind of lock on my project.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
so that's kind of why they have the dev board. Is that it's more convenient to do that from another chip,
Mm.
kind of whose role is just to send those strobe and then let the
Okay,
chip
but
go crazy.
if you tweak that strobe,
Yeah,
sorry,
you can access other project. Yeah.
you can access all
Yeah,
the
and
projects.
like I think
But
on that
then
chip,
you-
I'm not sure if there is other audio project.
Uh-huh.
But on more recent tape out that they've done, there is a lot of different audio projects.
Okay, but then like you don't really know what's the design and how it behaves.
Actually, like because
Oh, they are all audio.
all the design in order
It's-
to be submitted on Tiny Tapout, they have to be open source.
Okay.
So you can access like all the design source. Like usually people put together a data sheet that
Mhm.
explain what the input pin are doing.
Okay.
So for me, I said like, yeah, the input pin for 0 to 16, the 0 to 15, they are like just for the 4 parameter.
Okay.
Group in group of 4, and then like you get like 8 pin for the output, and that's the PCN waveform. So you have to put it through a DAC to be able to.
Okay.
read it.
Okay.
And so like you kind of write like the how-to of how to test your chip.
Okay, but like almost all the projects that are part of this community
Yeah.
are audio projects.
No,
not
like,
necessarily.
people make CPU, people make like VGA demo, people make sound, like copy of old chips. Like
Okay.
some people made a clone of an Atari 2060,
So
600. like
you're kind of again the lucky lottery of chipsets, right?
Yeah, like it's kind of you get whatever design, whatever like people were submitting at that time, and because the space are limited to
Mm.
like you, on the Discord channel where they submit all the design, you feel a lot of stress like toward the end where everybody is like.
Yeah.
Because like the tiny tapeout like close at a fixed date.
Ah,
So if you
okay.
don't get your design in by that time, it's too late.
Oh, okay.
And so it's really funny to see all the design coming and to kind of be a part of this.
And so when you said you burned it,
Yeah.
like you think everything is
Yeah, so I think
ruined.
so I think like I did a mistake where I was manipulating it on the breadboard, and I wasn't careful with like some jumper cable that was here connected to the input pin, and I think it went to one of the power rail, which was way more than the voltage that it can tolerate.
Ah,
So I think
okay.
it's just like
So you just sent like
take a big
because
voltage
can
to
I-
something that can take 3 to 3, and so it didn't really burn.
Wow.
I think
Wow.
it's just like
I just want to show it.
Yeah.
Like this is. So, like
I have
you,
a new one coming, so it's gonna be.
when you're doing the design of it, like is it kind of a circuit? Like it looks like a
Yeah, so like you
a
have-
logic circuit.
So at the end, at the very end, before you send it to the fab, it's just a netlist. So
Okay.
it's a series of gates that you have wired together.
Hmm.
But kind of it's complicated to think of hard algorithm just as a series of gates. So you have like higher level language
Hmm.
that kind of compile down to like this series
Ah,
of gates.
okay. So you write a more simplified
Yeah.
version that is
Yeah,
translated
and so
into.
and what's funny is that like the version that I write using the language that we develop at work called like XS, it's like really close to the video that was posted online.
Okay.
By it, like I literally just copied the formula
Hmm.
and turn it into like the language that we use to develop chip.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like, yeah, it was the idea was really to port like a very software thing
Okay.
to hardware like.
That's super funky. I'm wondering, like, is there some rules, or is it completely freestyle? If I just randomly come up with any formula, it will make audio, or there is some form of constraints on how you think about
so like,
the space.
You map kind of like if you just put a T as the thing, you just hear a saw wave. If you multiply that T by 2, you will hear a saw wave that goes twice as fast. So it's like 1 octave up. If you divide it by 2, it will be twice as slow. So and you kind of play with this parameter. Like if you end it, like it will only keep the bits that are there. So you will have a weird form of kind of wave shaping of the original thing. So if you I don't know, if you can make a square wave if you use n, for example. If you make like plus, you can mix like 2 wave thing together. 2 wave form together. If you put like or, you will kind of mix them together, but with something that's kind of look like a distortion, because like some bits will get crushed together and will get to 1 because there is no chi, and so you will hear like kind of that fuzzy sound of 2. You will recognize the waveform, but they will feel kind of degraded as they get mixed together. It's a little just like kind of, it's funny because you get to explore when you code and live code by bit, which you can't do on that chip because there is only one formula. You explore kind of the
parameter space of
the operator and how they interact between them.
But it's cool. It feels like there is still some form of scoring systems, you know, that is still like very reminiscent of when you learn like music education, you know, and you learn the basic way that behavior. Because for you, it seems obvious.
No. I had to look up that stuff all the time. It takes a lot of experimentation to really internalize it. So I think there is kind of 2 levels of kind of playing there. You have like, you play with the operator, and so you kind of try to architect a song with all those operators. And like what I wanted to do with that chip is allow people not to play with the operator, but play just with the parameter. And so kind of have the operator be the same as like the one that the artist has chosen.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting because like last time on this show there was this noise artist. And I was talking with him about this kind of new type of artist that is very recently, I think it's from the last maybe 20, 30 years of artists that are also engineers. And kind of now I feel like there is a lot of interest in artists that build their own instruments. You know, it's kind of part of the art itself is on the instrument making. So just by doing this chip, don't you consider yourself an artist?
I don't know, because like what's funny is that it's almost like a tribute to the original kind of artist of the thing. So it's like if you made an instrument that's just there to play one song.
Okay, so you think you copied somehow?
No, I think I'm kind of. I don't think it's a copy.
You're a tribute band.
Yeah. I'm a tribute.
You're a tribute band.
You know when you have those tribute bands that play the melody but not quite so well. Like it's kind of like this weird like this weird like reality valley like where it's kind of I recognize that thing but it doesn't sound right.
No, that's super interesting actually, and I'm wondering like as soon as you get for instance a new formula which can make its own thing, then would you consider yourself an artist?
Like so actually the next chip that I have, it's a good segue into it. Like the next chip that I have, it's not just a cover song.
It's gonna be your own originals.
No, it's an album. So I took like multiple.
Damn, but it's an album of yourself.
No, it's an album
of covers.
Some multiple. So it's like a cover. Like,
cover album.
Like imagine that you have a pop band or a rock band that make cover not of just one band, but all kind of the popular rock band.
Okay, yeah.
Cheesy.
You are the cover band of Bytebit. Right.
So I'm trying to make this album. So it's like the next chip that I have has like 4 designs into it.
Okay.
So 5 formula, and you can select the formula with like a pin. Like you have like 2 pins to 3 pins to select like the formula, and then like the funny thing is that like it on the output pin because I turned the output into PCM or PWM, so you have like just like kind of 1 output pin per song, and so it means that you can physically switch the song by like choosing on which part of the chip you hook.
Oh wow! Okay.
So it's like so you can literally kind of play the album and play the track just by switching to different input of the chip. So the chip itself and every time it play all the song with all the parameters.
Oh wow! But they are not synchronized.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they're synchronized on the same.
Yeah. Okay.
clock.
There is the internal clock.
The
Right.
internal clock, but they utilize that clock in
Okay.
totally different way.
But so you're not planning on like composing your own formulas?
Not really. Like I'm really into kind of this.
You're really into cover bands.
Yeah, I'm like this, yeah.
Byte beat cover bands.
Yeah, I want to kind of explore this thing where you take a lot of existing that you use song as instrument is kind of like the thing I'm after. So like if you make a good byte song, I might like a cheaper.
Okay, I might consider it. I'm wondering if you also like, are there some community and concerts? Like, are you performing?
So I performed one time with that. So actually with that chip, because and like on the breadboard, and like because I didn't like have like because all the inputs were digital, and I didn't like wire any ADC to be able to control it with voltage. I had to kind of switch the input one by one, like bit by bit, to be able to switch. So it was an interesting kind of performance because it was looking very impressive. Because I didn't know enough prep work, like I just had to kind of do this very meticulous thing of like plugging and putting that bit to one and plugging that other bit to one, and because like here during the prestation, like during the live, I could actually sweep the parameter continuously. Okay. But when you sweep in binary, you have to switch multiple bits at the same time. So you can't really do any sweep. So it will just jump from random space into the formula. That was really fun.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of a completely different way of like controlling.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it opens up like it seems limiting, but at the same time you have to be creative.
Yeah, it's very meticulous, like in the sense like it's really hands-on. Like you can just like I was feeling weird during the live because it felt a lot different from last time. Because I was really like do I put this bit to 1 or 0? I don't show what and I like this sheet of paper there when I put the interesting bit pattern that I remember of.
So you were just thinking about ones and zeros and just randomly.
Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna put that. It's gonna jump up. It's gonna like be like twice as fast, or like 4 times as fast if I do that. And like,
nice.
And like here I was like, it was weird because it was totally different because I could like really sweep the space between 0 and 16 on each parameter really freely.
Oh.
So suddenly like it was less accident based. I
Okay.
Be more intentional about it.
Yeah, actually that's an interesting question, which is how much do you feel it's important to have, because like a lot of live artists like claim a lot of, we talk about improvisation, for instance, and jam sessions and stuff. But even if you think about jazz, for instance, like jazz musicians rarely improvise completely. It's like you have a grid and you have like certain rules. So of course, like there is live in the sense that you're not reproducing exactly a score, but it's still based on agreeing on a set of rules that makes everything work together.
Yeah,
right?
And I think that the interesting part with that device is that kind of the rules are somehow the formula.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so when you were performing, you were knowing where you were going, or it was mostly?
I did know a bit where I was going. Okay. But it was a weird thing of like this kind of feedback loop where you move a slider.
Yeah, do something, change.
And then like you hear that, and then you think of moving the slider a different way. So like I think in a way like the algorithm that inside that thing was controlling me as much as I was trying to control it. Like because like it's I was not super intentional about everything I wanted to do. Like I was also reacting a lot to fuck, I did that, I didn't expect it. Like how can I build something that's not totally lame starting from there? And so like I think there is a lot of, and that's what makes it interesting is like kind of how long does it take you to kind of map some space, and then how you want to move inside of it.
And just one last kind of question, if you're interested in trying it, like for instance, it looks like a very, very, time consuming and kind of perilous process, because you sending a design to a chip company and you have to know the design works. So if you want to try it, like kind of emulate.
The Tiny Teapot way is the perfect way to kind of try this kind of thing, because they also have like kind of an FPGA FPGA board that they sell that you can try your design on.
Oh, but you still have to.
Yeah.
You still need an There is no version where you can try on your computer. You can just mess around with.
Like,
Okay.
And that's what I did. I mean, that's usually what you do before
Ah,
sending it to the fab.
Before sending the thing.
Like the FPGA is just a way so that you can be physical about it. So like you can actually run the thing like at the full clock speed that you expect.
Okay.
Like with real I/O interface to it, and kind of put it into a rack and do things. Well. But like if you are in the realm of kind of I'm just designing my chip, I'm trying to see if it's correct. Like you have a way to run simulation at different steps of the process. So you can run a simulation when in your high-level language, and so you can just verify like the samples that came out to your high-level language are kind of make sense, and you can try to write them to a WAV file and hear them. And then you can go like one level lower where you get like this kind of this netlist that you are about to send to the fab. And you run another type of simulation there that sends the same input, and you verify it sounds the same as the first thing. And that's a lot of what kind of people who make chip is part of their methodology, is that designing is not the bottleneck for them. Like verifying that it actually works becomes the bottleneck. And so they will maybe spend like 3 months designing something and kind of 6 months actually testing it. Because like I said, like, it's a lot of money. And so every error that you make, like if you are on a more advanced process node, like that one is like 130 nanometer, but like today's chip that you have in your phone is like 3 nanometer, for example. And if you make a mistake there, it's like millions, if billions of dollars that you just throw away. Just because you make a tiny error in your code, and you can't patch it because like it's like in the silicon. So you better make sure that it works before sending it to the fab, and that's actually...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. You know, for vinyls, for instance, when you press a vinyl, there is this thing called dub plate. Like you can do a test pressing, which is kind of lower quality. There is not such thing for like chips. You can't test press.
So like the simulation that you do is like one layer of a validation. If you want something like physical that you can interface with the hardware, like FPGA, it's also an option. And there is something that people call a model. So like
Okay, I think
people sometimes what they do also is develop a software model of the thing that they want to develop. To make sure like they have and then they kind of validate the equivalence between the software model and the hardware that they created. So like in my case, the software model was already done because it was like the original Bybit formula, so it was an easy task.
Nice. So 2 last questions. First, do you think we live in a simulation? No. Okay.
I think like a
random question.
I think like there is a lot of things that we don't see. Is what
I love that answer. I love the mysticism around it. And last question, Johan or Proppy, like where can we find more of your music, and do you perform? Do you have anything coming up?
I do like modular things as a way to disconnect from computer when I come back from home. When I come back from work, so like I have like an Instagram account like Proppy SH, when I post kind of like small like 30-second loop.
So we can find you in a weird concert in Tokyo sometimes.
So like there is the website like Patch for Anything, where like they advertise like the modular gig that are going on in Tokyo. And so I'm often like there is one like Friday, and there is another one like Sunday. I'm not performing at those for those particular instances, but I perform like, from time to time. I say like maybe 2 times or 3 times a year. So.
Okay, amazing. Thank you again so much for coming, and thank you for
thank you for
your amazing work.
For having me. Pleasure.
Cheers.
Cool. Bye.